Hi, and a warm welcome to week 3's touch base video. Can you believe it? We're in week 3 already. This week runs from May the 4th to May the 10th. I have 3 overarching purposes for this video. The first is to recap week 2. The second is to introduce you to week 3's reading and a little bit about the discussion forum questions. And then at the end of this video, I would like to talk about your newsletter article, which is due at the end of this week, and I have one other housekeeping issue that I'd like to talk to you about. Okay, recap of week 2. I went through all of your action plans. Wow, it's amazing what you're doing in your classroom with regard to inclusive education. Yeah, a lot of you talked about what you're doing. A few of you talked about what you want to do or what you would like to start in your school. So lots of great ideas there. And just thank you overall for week 2 as well. Thank you for answering the second question as well. I'm going to go quickly to the topic of this week and the articles this week. And this week we're dealing with leadership theories. Wow, there are so many leadership theories out there. And this week we're kind of just scratching the surface. However, I tried to provide you with some of the most popular leadership theories. Okay, let's start with Northouse and transformational leadership. Northouse does a great job at providing us with an example of a literature review of a leadership concept. In many ways, Northouse's article is an example of what your major paper can look like. Of course, it's not going to be that long or detailed, your major paper I mean, but as you're reading through Northouse's article, look at how he brings in other studies and other authors and how he cites them, and then how he puts it together in these paragraphs in the end, the overall meaning of his content. Okay, and here's a great thing. Northouse, you only need to read to page 205. After that, I think there are case studies. Don't bother reading those, so that'll shorten your read a bit. There are quite a few pages in Northouse. I think I read mine in about 40 minutes, but I am a pretty fast reader, and as well as I read his article, I knew the people he was talking about. So it was easy for me to read. I could read it fast. So I'm thinking maybe the article will take you about an hour to read. He's got a few diagrams in his article I'm not crazy about. However, I'm not a visual person. Diagrams don't work well for me. Maybe those diagrams will work for you. His writing is quite clear, concise, and easy to read, so that's fun. In his writing, he talks about Kouzes and Posner. This is their book, very, very popular in leadership. He talks about Benes, another very, very popular writer in leadership. So he gets the popular scholars in leadership, and it's a great article for many reasons, one of which is you'll be introduced to many of those leadership writers in the citations and references if you haven't heard of them yet. So transformational leadership, he talks about what that means. He talks about charismatic leaders. He says there's a lot of parallel descriptions between transformational leaders and charismatic leaders. He tells you what transformational leadership is not. It is not transactional research where employees or staff are motivated by extrinsic rewards. Transformational leadership is about leading a group of people and getting them motivated by the beautiful gifts they hold inside, by intrinsic motivation. So have a read of that. Hope you enjoy that. Fullen. I took this is a book chapter. It's not an article. It's a book chapter from this book. Now, Fullen, if you don't know, is a prolific writer. I think in the last 15, maybe 20 years, he must have written about 40 books. So he has many, many books out there. Often it's a book, it's given to staff or principals for professional development. He's a popular speaker in leadership conferences. And essentially this book chapter is about instructional leadership, but he calls it a collaborative culture. In many ways it's about professional learning communities. He starts by talking about the instructional leadership research from 4 main authors. Vivian Robinson is one. This is her famous book, or I shouldn't say famous, but 2011, very popular book. Student-centered leadership is like instructional leadership. It's the same thing Fullen's talking about. Oftentimes, many of these authors talk about the same concept, but they give it a little bit of a different name. He talks about Helen Timperley, Ken Leithwood, Tony Brike. So he talks about their research and how these people have shown what is instructional leadership and what is effective instructional leadership. In the last part of his article, he talks about capital. He talks about human capital, he talks about social capital, and he talks about decisional capital. One thing, he doesn't really explain what they mean in definition terms. If you don't know already, and maybe you do, but human capital is really the degrees you have, the educational background you have, and he pushes a little further, he says the experience you have, the professional experience. In its raw form, human capital is grade 12, college degrees, university degrees. He also talks about social capital. Social capital is the relationships you have. A good example of social capital is on the island. If you know many, many people, maybe your sons or daughters might get a job because of the people you know. You hear things because of your social capital. Your friend Mike's brother's sister works in a place and they've heard of a job that's open, and because of the social friends you have, you might be privy to getting a job. So social capital is the relationship, the friends you have. There are different levels. There's family social capital, friends social capital, professional social capital, but really it's the friends that you have, and that's your social capital. And Fullen takes social capital and he talks about it within the school, and he means relationships among colleagues. And then he says you take your experience, your human capital, and your social capital, your relationships among your colleagues, and you get decisional capital. So have a read through that. That's Fullen's chapter. The third chapter that I'd like you to read, I've got them all here, but is Crystal Holt, Women in Leadership. Wow, this one's interesting. Well, they're all interesting. Whew. First, I'm going to tell you, you only have to read to page 366. You can stop there. Once again, there are case studies you don't need to read, so that takes about, I don't know, 10 or 12 pages off of your read. See, there are good reasons to watch the touch base videos. Okay, Holt talks about styles and effectiveness of women leaders. She says, in general, female leadership embodies a more democratic, participatory leadership. Women are more empathetic, they're more collaborative, men are more aggressive, and they go for what they believe in, and they're more confident. That's in general. She talks about various approaches to promote more women in leadership. I also want to mention this. It's not in this article, but I want to mention this. I did a quick review, this was last year, but I think it'd be the same, of all the principles on PEI. This is my stat. I searched all the English schools in PEI, 61 schools, and I found out that about 60%, 35 of those schools, had male principals, and about 40%, or 26 schools, had female principals. So you might think, oh, 60-40, that's not bad. However, in education, about 70% of the employees, teacher employees, are female. So if 70% are female, I did the math, and you know, there should be 70% principals that are females. So we only have 40% on PEI. And oftentimes the male principals are the phys ed, a past phys ed coach or teacher. Not always, but oftentimes. Interesting stat, think about that. Lastly, Sandberg, I have a video for you to watch. It's 15 minutes long and it's called Why Do We Have Too Few Women Leaders? Watch that video and I think you're going to find it very interesting. Okay, discussion questions, quickly. I have 2 again this week, and for each discussion question, I would like you to answer it in 2 paragraphs. So I have discussion question number 1, discussion question number 2. This one has 2 paragraphs, and it's kind of like 2 mini questions that I want you to answer. The first one is on North House, and the second one is on Fullen. And then for the second discussion question, again, have 2 paragraphs I want you to write. The first one is on Holt and the second one is on Sandberg. So that's just an overview of your discussion forum. So in total, you're going to write 4 paragraphs, 2 paragraphs for the first discussion forum and 2 paragraphs for the second discussion forum. Okay, newsletter article needs to be finished by the end of this week. So thank you for handing in all your drafts. I'm going to do a revision of all your drafts. I'm only going to do 1 round of revisions per student. One of the main reasons is because I don't have any more time. I spend about an hour on each one, at least, giving you feedback, and it's only 4 pages. And then the second thing is that with the abundance of feedback that I give you, it is then your responsibility to decide on how are you going to fine-tune your article. So when I provide you that feedback, it's then your responsibility to hand in the finished draft. If you do have questions, like about, is this sentence right, or can I double check on up to a paragraph, you can email me, but more or less after you get my feedback back, it's up to you to hand in the final draft, which is due Sunday, May the 10th at 23:55. I say 55 because Moodle only lets me put in 5-minute increments. Oh, one other thing. Remember that I said in the course outline on page 2, I would love you to formally publish your work through the Prince Edward Island Association of School Administrators newsletter. So when you hand in your final newsletter article, if you would like to publish your work, could you send me an email? I would just like a heads up when I go through your final draft. I'm going to be doubly sure that what you write will be okay. And I don't mean anything funny by that, but I'd just like to know if you have an intent or you want to publish your paper, your newsletter article, in this actual newsletter article. Once again, that newsletter article will be done about the 2nd week of June. It'll be sent to all principals, vice principals, senior management and education on the island, and all graduate students in our Faculty of Education program. Very exciting. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to get your word out there. Plus it's a line on your resume, which is always great for graduate work. Remember your APA reminder handout and your citations reference handout on Moodle. When you're doing your final draft, keep them close to you. And one final point. I uploaded the final Ed 615 course outline to Moodle. I should have done that, the 2nd week or 1st week into the course. I made 3 minor changes. The first one was I'm going to change some of the case studies in week 5. And the other one was I made a mistake on the example of the final newsletter article. You don't need to write your name on the 2nd paper. Title page, you need your name. 2nd page, you don't. I had my name twice in there, so I made that change in the final draft of our course outline. Those 3 minor revisions I have highlighted in yellow and uploaded a new course outline, but really it's almost not any different than what was up there before, but I just wanted to note that is that I have a revised course outline up on Moodle. Okay, I haven't told you how much I am enjoying having you in this class. I appreciate all the work you are doing, especially as this is an intensive course. You're putting in twice the amount of work. You're doing a full-time job. I bet most of you, well, I know most of you have kids at home. You have other responsibilities. I want to thank you for your dedication to this course, and I look forward to receiving your final newsletter article. I also look forward to talking to you next week. Bye for now.